The social studies department has recently gone away from grading daily assignments and activities and has begun to assign practice quizzes in its replacement. This has almost eliminated missing work in our classrooms as practice quizzes are much easier to regulate than homework.
Listen, we talking about practice. Not a game, not a game, not a game. We talking about practice.
That said, the daily assessments and activities are still being implemented in our curriculum, but we are no longer collecting that work to be graded. Instead, we provide students with practice quizzes that cover the themes or objectives of the daily activities as our formative assessment tool.
It's easy to sum it up when you just talk about practice. We sitting here, I'm supposed to be the franchise player, and we're in here talking about practice.
Our goal for our IGDP was to have our practice scores align with our assessment scores within a 5% margin of difference. If this occurred, we would then be able to conclude that our daily instruction and work being delivered to students is relevant and applicable to the content standards. We have common assessments written to state standards. If the margin of difference exceeds 5%, this will allow us to immediately assess our instructional strategies and make adjustments as necessary.
Like it don't mean anything. I know it's important. I do. I honestly do. But we talking about practice, man. What are we talking about? Practice?
Within the first 3 quarters of the school year, our average assessment scores were within the target goal of 5%. Even more interesting is that we found that our assessment scores were on average a few percentage points higher than our practice scores. For our IGDP, nothing would be more concerning than the inverse relationship of when practice score averages exceed assessment averages. This would demonstrate that the practice work we had been giving our students was not helping students prepare for the assessment.
Look, I hear you. It's funny to me too. I mean, it's strange to me too. But we talking about practice, man. We're not even talking about the game, the actual game, when it matters. We talking about practice.
What we have found with our prior method of assigning and collecting homework is that just because a child hands in a completed assignment, we realize that that assignment doesn't always fully assess if the students are understanding the content. In other words, if we had a student complete a map activity and turn it in for credit, all this demonstrated to us is that the student can copy a map from the textbook to a map on a worksheet. It didn't inform us anything on their ability to make a sensible judgment about matters involving the relationship between the physical environment and society, as our summative assessments would require them to do.
We're talking about practice, man. I mean, how silly is that, man? We're talking about practice.
We were only able to effectively collect 3 quarters of solid data due to the COVID pandemic. That said, preliminary data suggests that the students who are completing the assigned tasks are still seeing an average percentage difference between assessment and practice scores of less than 5%.
We're talking about practice, man. We're talking about practice. We're talking about practice.
That's all I have to say about that.
That's the right on, man. You said it all.